Look how beautiful these red Romas are. Not many days left to harvest red like this because the nights are getting much cooler here in Northwest Ohio. I spent an hour or so canning up a bushel and was sure to leave some aside for some homemade chili. Today I'm going to share with you my super easy and oh so tasty chili recipe. Start out by warming up your favorite soup or stock pot so we can brown up a pound of ground beef. Be sure to move it around in that hot pot so we don't burn any of this ground beef. I'm actually using a really good sirloin burger in this recipe today. The sirloin I'm using doesn't have a lot of fat, so there's not a lot of liquid in the stock pot for this beef to brown up in. So what I'm going to do is add about a half a cup of vegetable broth to it just to keep it moist, and it also adds some great flavor to that beef as it cooks up. I like to put the lid back on the pot just to keep that moisture in there, but don't walk away. You're going to want to keep moving it around, stirring it a bit just so it doesn't burn to the bottom of the pan. And also you may have to add a little bit more vegetable stock if it goes dry. It's a beautiful end of summer day here in Northwest Ohio, so me and Olivia went out to the garden to pick some peppers to use in this recipe. I'm going to keep this batch a little mild, so I'm not going to use those bright yellow peppers, but instead I'm going to use a couple of Anaheim that I grew this year. I'm going to go ahead and dice up one medium-sized onion. I kept my chunks a little large, but I want this chili to be a little chunky. You can dice them up as small as you want. So over to the soup pot. My beef is nice and browned up, so I'm going to scoot it to the side and add these beautiful onions. We're just going to saute these a bit to get them soft. Okay, so now I'm going to take those three beautiful Anaheim that I picked, and I'm going to basically cut the top off carefully with a paring knife. If you do this right, you can usually pull all the seeds off right at once, but that's not working so good for me today. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove the seeds. So now I'm going to take those three Anaheim and I'm going to dice them up. I'm leaving them a little chunky because they will be sauteed in the pan as well to soften them up. And I want my chili to be nice, hearty, and I just love those big bites of veggies. For some extra flavor, I went ahead and minced up 2 large cloves of garlic and a dash of salt to mix in with the peppers, onions, and the beef as they marinate together before adding the rest of the ingredients. Time to open up the beans. I'm using black beans and pinto beans in this recipe today. We're going to want to drain the juice off of those black beans. Okay, so for my canning, I put aside 6 cups of fresh Roma that had been partially stewed. And I'm going to add that to the meat and veggies and kind of stir it around really good here. Okay, so now don't be shy. If it seems a little dry, go ahead and add a little bit more of the veggie broth before we add the chili seasoning. Super easy chili seasoning includes half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of cayenne, a 1/4 teaspoon both of thyme, and oregano. I basically have all those spices sitting out and throw them on in, mix it up good just before adding the beans. The black beans and pintos are already cooked partially in the can, so we don't want them to be super mushy, so those are the last to go in. Now we're going to put the lid on and let it simmer for a good half an hour, maybe 20 minutes. Just keep your eye on it and don't be afraid to taste test. Just look at this. Isn't this gorgeous? I know I've got some big chunks of pepper in there, but yum, super good. I got my bowl ready. I whipped up a batch of my favorite cornbread, so you'll have to subscribe to get that recipe. And I'd love to hear your comments, so be sure to share them below this video. Until next time, I hope you get creative out in the garden.